remember, too, that the education in each country, in each nation, is to perpetuate that system that they live under. So
Yes.
they teach you how to be lawyers and bankers and salespeople and advertising agents and insurance people, salespeople. So it perpetuates the monetary system. All those jobs, bankers, would be parasitic in a system that does not use money. Everybody would be trained to be problem solvers, because every kid that shoots up drugs and hangs out in malls and street corners that has nothing to do and no education, the society pays for it in the end. You pay for it in the end. They send them to jail, and who do you think pays for the jail? You know, if they stole things, it's easier, it's cheaper. Like the example Jacque usually uses, if they stole a watch, they have 3 times and you're out in this country. And if, you know, they put you in jail for years, and say you stole a watch or many watches, and they put you in jail for years, if you add up all the money that it takes to house them, feed them, clothe them, and they don't really educate them, but to give them medical care, it's cheaper to give them the watch. And with our technology today, we can create abundance if we use it wisely, if we don't abuse it. Today, we abuse our technology. We make bombs, we make weapons. One of our biggest industry, second to banking, is the armament industry. They just spread it out into every city and practically or every state. So you don't want to vote against it, you'll lose jobs. It's so corrupt, this system. There really is nothing worth saving other than the technology.
And of course, the penal system in the United States is another business.
Yeah.
And we have the highest ratio of inmates per capita than any other country in the world. But I know the proposed vision is to do away with, when I say the proposed vision, I mean the Venus Project, is to do away with currency into a resource-based economy. But the reality is that today we live in a money paradigm. How then can you take the second step? I say second because I would presume the first step is the vision. But in order to implement the vision in today's paradigm, you would need money. Doesn't that sound somewhat contradictory?
Yes, it does sound contradictory. However, let me point this out. People do ask me, will the capitalists give up their possessions for a resource-based economy? No, they will not. You have to wait till people lose their jobs, lose their home, lose confidence in their elected leaders. That is the time for social change. You will not get it through reason or logic.
And that's happening all over the world. The job right now is to educate people that there is another system that would benefit themselves and the environment, where everybody could have a high standard of living without toiling for it.
Just remember that I've lived through the last depression, and a friend of mine owned an aircraft factory. And the government came in and said, we're taking your factory over. He said, why? Because you haven't paid taxes for 3 years on your equipment. He said, I have no orders for airplanes. Take the goddamn factory.
Yeah.
In other words, people don't have to give up anything. If banks fail and you bail them out, you're taking public funds away from feeding the poor, taking care of people to get their pensions, and you're giving it to banks, and you're giving it to the people. This is unfortunate that Obama gave the money to the banks and the institutions that created the problems in the first place. He has no idea of what to do. Neither does any other politician have any idea of what to do to stop these problems. Only when they get themselves into jams and the system dies will people look up and say, is there any other way? Right now, they don't give a damn until they lose their home, their job, and that they can't get another job, and they run out of pension funds or support from the government. Then they will demand social change. Now is the time. The system is collapsing all over the world, not just here in the United States, and they can't come up with solutions anymore. War in the old days used to bring a nation out of unemployment. People go back to work making weapons. Today we have more wars than ever, and it's not pulling us out. So it's not working anymore. and the system is dying. The Republicans, most of them are very stupid people. Just check it out by asking them questions about the physical world. They know little about it. They know where to invest, how to invest, and seek only the profit margin. So this is a warped mind from my point of view. You deal with mental illness. That's a mental illness, seeking financial gain only, having no compassion for other people. This is all distortion. You could think, well, I guess that's the way the world is. That is not the way the world is. That's the way the world is kept by the in-group or the establishment. When I use the term established culture, I mean that those in control have put in the systems that keep them in control. What we want is an emergent culture, not an established culture. An emergent culture means it's always evolving, always changing, and keeping the public aware of what's new and what is no longer relevant. Do you understand that?
Yes, and it's going to take the people at a grassroots level to really affect the change that we all want. We're seeing it in Egypt right now as we speak. Hosni Mubarak, the president, is giving a speech and stepping down because the people are clamoring for that change. Do you think that people around the world will have to rally to request that life as we know it change, to perhaps adopt your vision? Or is this such an uphill battle that this could only happen if we get out of this planet and start elsewhere, where we're not gonna have the uphill battles that we face on this planet?
What we have to do is educate people. When Edison came up with the electric lamp, or when Tesla came up with the induction coil, he had to tell people what it is, what it does. Mm-hmm. The gas companies don't tell you anything. When I was a kid, people used to light the street lamps. They were gas lights. And then the electric light came in, but you had to tell people what it was. They didn't all install electric lights right away in their homes. It took years. So unfortunately, which I'm so sorry to say, you have to work your butt off educating people. They are not educated today. Otherwise, scientists would not go to work for their country. They would not develop the atom bomb. They would not work on things like that. They would ask questions, what makes war? What makes nations aggressive? Once they find out that it's because they don't have access to the resources that they need, so they invade other countries. When the world begins to share the resources of the earth with one another, and all the artificial boundaries are removed between nations, and people learn to understand that all people need clean air, clean water, good healthy food, and a relevant education, and cooperatively sharing ideas, not winning, but sharing ideas with other people, that'll put an end to most of the social problems you have today. Until they understand that, they wouldn't know which way to go. If you say, well, Africa or Egypt is undergoing change, no, they're not. They don't know what to install. Once they win and get rid of these corrupt politicians, they don't know any other system. They don't know what to design. So you have to educate people as to what can be done and how it can be done. You understand? Don't rely on people revolting. If you have a revolution, they still don't know what to do. Like Castro in Cuba. He didn't know what to do after he got rid of capitalism and gangsters, and all the gambling houses were owned by Americans. Most of the hotels were owned by Americans. Castro didn't know what to do. In Russia, they didn't know how to do public housing. They didn't know how to prevent corruption. They didn't know how to do that. This is what we have to inform people in, how to do it. And that's where the Venus Project comes in. That's where the book called The Best That Money Can't Buy on our website, thevenusproject.com, goes into how and what to do, not just criticize. It's wrong to criticize a country without offering a possible alternative. Otherwise, you leave people in midair.
Indeed. And I have a friend, perhaps you know the name, Professor John Searle. He created a free energy device many years ago, And when he was in England, he decided to try it at home. He removed all his appliances and connected all the electricity in his house to the machine. And it worked. The result was he was arrested because they were saying that he was stealing electricity. They did not believe that anybody could come up with that idea. What's your take on that?
Well, you got to remember that even the scientists in the old days used to write books on why man can't fly.
Mm-hmm.
If they were scientists, they say, I can't conceive of how to build a flying machine. I don't know enough about it. I don't know. But they have opinions about everything. So you don't really have a scientific community. Although they talk about it as though you had a scientific community. They would first check on the system that produces aberrant behavior. They'd ask questions, what makes war? What makes a nation aggressive? Why aren't people free thinkers? Because you can't control them if they're free thinkers. Do you understand that?
Also, yeah, in this show, we not only talk about the topics, Jacque and Roxanne, we also discuss the solutions. I'm always thinking of two words: take action. Let's talk about the entire equation. What are the most important variables that can take your vision from concept to reality?
An understanding of how the world works. If people do not understand that, if they think there's such a thing as human nature, some people are good, some are lazy, some are not, all that's artificial. All people can be like Leonardo da Vinci. All people can be as creative as Tesla if you know how to do it. Only they don't know how to do it. They think some people are creative and some aren't. Some are artistic, some aren't. That's not true. Anybody can learn anything. You can be brought up to hate Filipinos, Jews, Swedes. It depends on the indoctrination you're given by your country. So your country tends to indoctrinate you to ideas that support the establishment. Do you understand that? That's why you don't get in the public library and in our schools contradictory books.
Don't we need, and I've had this conversation with Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, a few years ago, that in order for us to accomplish something like this, we need a one world, I hate to call it government, but a world that's united, where nationalism and boundaries are a thing of the past. Does that make sense?
One world government that we need is the intelligent management of the Earth's resources. The only way that can be done, you got to be very careful and pay attention to what I'm saying. The only way you can have a world without war, poverty, hunger is by using the methods of science